Writing for 100, but you'll have lot of choice in each sections of the question paper. That's the beauty of physics. First, you'll write the principle of the experiment. Say I've got Newton's law of cooling. I'll write what is the aim of the experiment. So that has 2 marks here. In this Newton's law of motion, you'll also learn what is inertia, what is friction, what are the types of friction, and the weightage of the chapter is 10 marks and the teaching hour is 11. Hello students, I am Nishma Nanjama, Faculty of Physics in Vidhyaashram Pre-University College, Mysuru. A warm welcome to each one of you for my today's session, that is the introduction class. This class will give you a brief idea about what is the syllabus, what are all the chapters included for first PUC class, and what is the importance of chapter, and what is the weightage of each chapter. That we'll be discussing in syllabus. Next we have question paper pattern, where we'll be discussing both theoretical as well as practical question papers. And once you get the idea about the syllabus and the question paper pattern, now all that you have to do is what are the steps you should follow and what tricks you can use in order to get the full package of marks. That we'll be discussing in skill to understand and reproduce. So let's begin. So this is your physics NCERT textbook for first PUC. So our physics textbook is divided into 2 parts, part 1 and part 2. In part 1, it includes 8 chapters, students, and second textbook includes 7 chapters. So we'll first discuss the first 8 chapters that you students are going to study in your first PU. And what are the weightage of each chapter? This NCERT textbook has given you a detailed explanation of all the concepts, which is really helpful for your competitive examinations. So let's start with introduction to syllabus. So your first textbook contains these 8 chapters. So the first is physical world. In this first chapter, you'll learn about what do you mean by physics, what is science, what are its importance, how technology and science are related, what is the scope for physics. All that you'll be discussing in the first chapter. And students, look at the weightage is 2 marks and I need 2 sessions to complete the first chapter. Second chapter is units and measurements. In this chapter, you learn what do you mean by units. You learn what are errors, what are the different types of errors. All that you'll be learning in units and measurements. The weightage of chapter is 4 marks and I need 4 sessions to complete this chapter. The third chapter is motion in a straight line. In this chapter, you'll learn what is velocity, acceleration, time. Say for example, I want to move from one place to another place. Say I'm traveling in a car with some speed of 60 km per hour. Now, what is the time I take to travel from one place to another place? So, these kind of problems we'll be studying in motion in a straight line, where we'll be discussing what is velocity, acceleration, time, etc. So, the weightage of the chapter is 8 marks and the teaching hour is 8. Next, the fourth chapter in the first part of textbook is motion in a plane. In this chapter, you learn what do you mean by motion in a plane and what is vector addition, what is multiplication of vector, what is division of vector. All these you'll be learning in motion in a plane, which has weightage of 11 marks and teaching hour is 12. Next, the fifth chapter is laws of motion. In this laws of motion, you will learn one of the basic and fundamental law of Newton, that is Newton's laws of motion. So, in this Newton's law of motion, you'll also learn what is inertia, what is friction, what are the types of friction, and the weightage of the chapter is 10 marks and the teaching hour is 11. Next, the sixth chapter is work, energy and power. In this chapter, you learn what do you mean by work, what do you mean by energy, power. Say for example, there's a boy by name Ravi. So, Ravi has to lift the ball from one point to another point. So, what is the amount of work he has done in order to lift the ball from one point to another point? All these kind of problem you'll be studying in work, energy and power. And also what do you mean by collision? What are the different types of collision, that is inelastic collision and elastic collision. All these you'll be studying in your sixth chapter, which has the weightage of 7 marks and I need 11 sessions to complete this chapter. So the seventh chapter is system of particles and rotational motion. In this chapter, you learn what do you mean by rigid body, what kind of motion a rigid body can you'll be studying in system of particles and rotational motion. So the weightage of chapter is 10 and I need 12 sessions to complete the 7th chapter. And the 8th chapter, that's the last chapter in your part 1 physics textbook, that is gravitation. So who don't know about gravitation? You're aware of gravity. Here you'll learn one of the famous law, that is universal law of gravitation, and also what is Kepler's law of planetary motion. All these topics will be covered under gravitation, which has the weightage of 9 marks and I need 9 sessions to complete this chapters. So your physics part 1 textbook contains 8 chapters and this is the marks allotted, that is the weightage of marks for each chapter, and this is a teaching hour, how many hours I need to complete each individual chapters. So look at the weightage, students. How well you will plan, that will help you to score well in your paper, that is exam paper. So you can see the motion in a plane, laws of motion, work, energy and power, system of particles and rotational motion, gravitation, all these chapters have more weightage. Students, if you can study all these chapters thoroughly, it will help you to get nearly 25 to 30 marks. So next 7th chapter is from your part 2 physics textbook, mechanical property of solids, wherein you will be studying about what do you mean by elasticity and also about stress, strain, what are the different type of stress and strain, about rigidity modulus, about Young's modulus, Hooke's law. All these will be discussed in mechanical properties of solids, which has 4 marks and I need 5 sessions to complete this chapter. And the 10th chapter is mechanical properties of fluids. In fluids, you will study about Pascal's law. You'll study about Bernoulli's principle, about surface tension, viscosity. All these comes under mechanical properties of fluids, which has 3 marks and teaching hour is 5. Next you have thermal properties of matter. In thermal properties of matter, you learn the measurement of temperature, heat transfer, what are the different modes of heat transfer, that is conduction, convection, radiation, all these Newton's law of cooling, which you will be performing in practical class as well. All these will be discussed in the 11th chapter, which has the weightage of 9 and I need 10 class to complete this session. The 12th chapter is thermodynamics. In thermodynamics, you learn the laws of thermodynamics and also about the Carnot engine, heat engine. All these concepts will come under 12th chapter, which has a weightage of 6 marks and teaching hours is 8. Next, you have the 13th chapter, that is kinetic theory of gases. Here you'll study the behavior of gases. You'll study about all the basic laws, that is Boyle's law, Charles' law. All these will come under kinetic theory of gases and it has the weightage of 5 marks and I need 5 hours to complete this session. 14th chapter is oscillation. In oscillation, you learn what is oscillation, what is simple harmonic oscillation. Say for example, I have a simple pendulum. I'll apply some force. When I apply some force, simple pendulum starts to swing. So what is the time period for its oscillation? That can be calculated in this chapter. All these kind of problems you'll be studying under oscillations. So marks allotted is 7 and I need 8 hours to complete this session. The last chapter of your part 2 physics textbook is waves. In waves, you'll study what you mean by wave, what is wave motion, what are the different kinds of wave like longitudinal wave, transverse wave, about Doppler effect. All these you'll be studying in your 15th chapter, which has a weightage of 10. I need 10 hours to complete this session. So when you look at both the first part and second part textbook, so these are the 15 chapter it includes and there are so many interesting topics that we will be covering in our both the physics textbooks, and including both first and second textbook, marks allotted are these and the total of marks is 105. So your paper is set for 105 including both part 1 and part 2 textbook. The total teaching hours I need for both the textbooks is 120 hours. So next we have question paper pattern. Students, whenever a question paper is given to you, don't be in a hurry to answer. Before you look into the questions, first you read the instructions which are given for you in the question paper. In this instruction, the first is all parts are compulsory. Answer without relevant diagram, figure, circuit whenever necessary will not carry any marks. That means, for example, if I have asked you to derive expression for time period of an oscillating pendulum, for example, this derivation will have some relevant diagram for it, or the theory has, if I asked to explain Newton's law of cooling, that theory will have relevant diagram. Whenever you start answering to the question paper, for that particular question, your answer should include the relevant diagram. So that is about second point. Without relevant diagram, if you are just written theory, you cannot expect the evaluator to give you full marks. So the third point is numerical problems solved without writing the relevant formula carry no marks. Substitution steps has to be clear with SI units. So numerical problem, that is the last part of your question paper that I'll tell you. So whenever a numerical is asked, first write what are the given things. First read the question, understand, write what are all given in the question, then think which formula is relevant to these given things in the numerical. So once you get the formula, start substituting. After substitution, write a clear answer with SI unit. So each steps in the numerical has the marks. Just writing directly formula or directly the answer without a proper SI unit will not pledge you full marks. So those are the instructions. So I request you, please do go through the instruction before you start answering the question paper, reading or looking into the questions in the question paper. So marks distribution. Coming to the marks distribution, students, listen carefully, this is very important. First, theory and practical, it is for 100 marks. Next, the theory paper is set for 105 marks. Total marks to be answered is 70 marks. Allotted hour is 3 hours 15 minutes and practical paper is for 30 marks. So you're including theory and practical. That means theory you will be writing for 70 and practical you will be writing for 30. So 70 plus 30, 100 marks. So theory and practicals will be writing for 100 marks, but the theory paper is set for 105 marks. So is it confusing? Don't get confused. So you'll have lot of choice in your question paper. You're writing for 100, but you'll have lot of choice in each sections of the question paper. That's the beauty of physics. Next, you have total marks to be answered. Theory paper, it is 70. Practical examination will also be conducted, which is for 30. So 30 plus 70 will give you 100 marks. And you have 3 hours 15 minutes, students. This 15 minutes is very important, which will help you to give a clear picture of your question paper. Utilize this 15 minutes, students. Don't be in a hurry in answering your question paper. This 15 minutes, look at each part, analyze which questions you can answer, which you cannot answer. Have a clear idea. These questions I have to answer. These questions I'll be leaving in the choice. So once the 15 minutes you utilize it properly, this 3 hours you can beautifully answer your question paper. So this is about the marks distribution. Next, you have question paper pattern. This is the theory question paper pattern, students, which you will be writing for 70 marks. You will have 4 parts, part A, part B, part C, part D, with 6 mains, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6 mains. So in the part A, it will be for 1 mark question, wherein you will be answering in 1 sentence. So answer all of the following questions. There will be no choice in part A. All the 10 questions are compulsory. 10 into 1 will give you 10 marks here. Next, you have part B. Answer any 5 of the following questions. That means in part B you have choice. There will be 8 questions. There will be 8 questions wherein you will be answering any 5. That will give you 5 into 2. It is 10. That is 2 marks question in part B. The third main, you can see, answer any 5 of the following question. That is for 3 marks, you will have to answer any 5. You will have 8 questions. Rest is choice. Any 5 out of 8, that is for 3 marks, that will give you 5 into 3, it is 15. Next, you have 4th one, that is part D. Part D includes 3 mains, you can see, 4, 5 and 6. This 4th main, students, it's from the part 1 physics textbook, which we have discussed earlier. So these questions will be from part 1 textbook. Answer any 2. That means you'll have 3 questions wherein you have to answer. You'll have 3 questions. You have to answer any 2 among the 3. So it is for 5 marks. So 2 into 5 is 10. So next, the 5th one is answer any 2 of the following questions. This 5th main will be from your part 2 textbook. You'll have 3 questions wherein you'll be answering any 2 among the 3. So you'll have, which is for 5 marks, 2 into 5 is 10 again. Last is sixth main. Sixth main, answer any 3 of the following questions. That means it is numerical part. Never think numerical problems are a problem. It is actually easy if you can understand and analyze and write the given things with relevant formula. So numerical problem is a scoring part. So take it seriously. Always try to analyze the numericals. So that will be your sixth main, where you have to answer any 3 of the following questions. So you will be given any 5. So you have to answer any 3 of the following questions, which is each question carry 5 marks. So 3 into 5 is 15. So the total marks is 70. The theory paper will be for 70. So students, part A, all the questions are compulsory and it is for 1 marks. So next, answer any 5 of the following questions from part B, that is for 2 marks. So next you have answer any 5 of the following questions, which is of 3 marks. And all the last part D is for 5 marks. Last is the numerical. So this is all about the question paper pattern. Next we will discuss the practical paper pattern. So this practical paper is important along with your theory. Never neglect the practical. Never think it will be easy, we can do it. It is easy if you take it serious and perform the laboratory experiments very well. So there is certain format you should follow always in the practical exam, that we will be discussing here. So general instruction before you get into the exam hall is duration for practical exam will be 2 hours. That depends on the experiment. Sometimes it can be more than 2 hours also. It's all on the experiment you people will be getting. So the second is marks allotted. That will be for 30 marks. You'll be writing a practical exam for 30 marks. So scheme of valuation, students. So first let's see the weightage of marks. Before I go to the weightage of marks, I'll explain you. For example, consider I have got Newton's law of cooling in my laboratory exam. So what I'll do is, I got Newton's law of cooling, I'll just perform the experiment, I'll give it to my teacher and leave the lab. That is not the way you will be performing your lab exam. It also has a format or instructions that you should be following. If I have got Newton's law of cooling, first I have to write what is the aim of the experiment. I should write what is the formula relevant to it, diagram with neat labeling, empty tabular column with neat calculation substitution. I should come to the end with result with proper SI unit. All these steps includes marks. It's not just the result contains 30 marks. No. We'll discuss that here, students. First, look at the weightage of marks. Performing the experiment has 20 marks. So Viva Voce has 4 marks. So practical record. So your record contains 6 marks. So the total is for 30 marks, where you can see the distribution of marks performing the experiment, how the 20 marks is divided. Okay, first you'll write the principle of the experiment. Say I have got Newton's law of cooling, I'll write what is the aim of the experiment. So that has 2 marks here. Next I'll write the formula and explaining the terms has 2 marks, and writing the diagram, figure, circuit with labeling has 2 marks, and writing the tabular column observation pattern again has 2 marks, and constructing the experiment setup or circuit has 3 marks. Once you are done with the setting up of experiment, once she says to perform the experiment, then only you will start the experiment. So you can see all different sections has different marks allotted. So performing experiment means all these points should be included. Next, see, performing the experiment and entering the readings in the tabular column or observation pattern has 4 marks. Whenever you take a reading, you'll have to take at least 3 trials, or if a plotting graph, you have 15 points, at least 6 points should be considered when you plot an graph. So that has 4 marks. So substitution and calculation, or if the experiment includes graph, plotting the graph and calculation has 3 marks, students, and result with proper SI unit has 2 marks. So the total performing the experiment contains 20 marks. So whenever you perform the experiment, be confident, perform it well, and always when you arrive at a result, please show the calculations and substitution steps clearly how you got that particular answer, and always when you mention the answer, please put in proper SI unit. For example, I get the value of force. What is the unit of force? It's Newton. So the force is this many Newton. So SI unit is also very important. So all these steps, each point has marks. So overall performing the experiment has 20. Next you have Viva O's. In this Viva O's, students get nervous about Viva. What questions ma'am might ask. Never have that fear. It is again an easy part of scoring where you'll get 4 marks, students. Always when a teacher asks a question, it will be relevant to the experiment that you have got. If I have got Newton's law of cooling, I might get the questions like, what do you mean by Newton's law of cooling? What is the unit of force? Or what do you mean by Newton's law? If you have formula, in that formula, what is F or what is G? All these kind of questions will be getting, which will be simple, direct, and you can easily score 4 marks. So 4 questions must be asked. Each question carry 1 mark. The questions in the Viva O's should be simple, direct, and related to the experiment being performed by the students. So Viva O's has 4 marks. Next, analyzing and producing. What do you mean by this analyzing and producing? Now students, you know what is the detail about the blueprint of your syllabus, which are all the chapters that your first PU physics textbook include, what is the weightage of marks for each, and in another hand you have the question paper pattern. So keeping these two in your mind, how well you plan to succeed at the end of your academics. So once you know syllabus, once you know question paper pattern, what all the steps you will follow and tricks you use to score well in your exams, that we'll discuss here. Check the syllabus, students. Look at the weightage of marks for each chapter. Next, you should know the question paper pattern. What is the question paper pattern for your first PUC? As practical, how will you perform the practical exam? What are the orders you have to follow? Whenever the question paper is given to you, students, please I request you, read the questions once, twice, thrice. Don't be always in a hurry to answer the question paper. So reading will really benefit you. So it gives you clarity what is the question being asked and what you should answer on your answer paper. Before you go through the question paper, look at part 1, part 2, part 3. Read the instruction which is given for you in the question paper. Even in the practical exam, don't be nervous. Have patience to perform the experiment in which all the orders I have told you. From the aim till the result, it should be neat and legible to the teacher. So students, we have discussed about the syllabus, question paper pattern, and how to analyze and produce it in your answer booklet. So that's all for today's session. Next, I'll be coming up with more physics session. Until then, take care. Have a good day.